Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. I am your host, Joe Hamilton, along with Scott Tobin. Scott, how are you doing, man?
I'm good, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing really good. You know, it was pouring down rain at least most of the afternoon here in St. Louis, and I think we need the rain, I guess. I mean, March has been a very rainy month to this point.
Yeah, I don't know that we needed the rain because, some of the smaller rivers and stuff are starting to get pretty high. Well, even the bigger rivers, the Missouri and stuff, are right around flood stage. So we don't need a whole lot of rain. But, yeah, we got some today. It's supposed to get really windy tonight, too. They were talking we might have 40 to 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts.
Yeah, and that can cause damage all by itself. But like we talked about last week, there's another big-time severe weather event down in Alabama and toward that way with Torcons near like 10, and that's nothing to laugh at. So hopefully you guys are staying safe down there. If anybody's tuning in from down there, stay safe and be well. But Scott, let's first go to the St. Louis Blues, and they started this game off tonight the way Bobby Plager would have loved them to. Braden Shen within a second right after the drop of the puck, throws down with Ryan Hartman, and that was probably one of the best moments I think I've ever seen. A team just channeling their inner Bobby Plager, and it was awesome to see, Scott. So I'd advise you to go look at that video if you haven't seen it yet. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely a good way in that aspect to kind of honor Bobby. Like you said, he would have loved that.
He would have loved that, and he would not love the score to this point. The Blues right now are losing 2-0 at the end of 2, and the goal scored by Kirill Kaprizov. That I don't know how to explain it. So he's coming in on a one-on-one, right? So he's coming in on a one-on-one. I think it's Torrey Krug on Kaprizov. He gets a little space, shoots the puck. It somehow goes through Bennington's armpit. Probably one of the best goals I've ever seen scored. This is just unbelievable what this kid's doing. And Scott, not the way the Blues want to come out, that's for sure. Losing 2-0, but you have one more period to kind of turn the tide there.
Yeah, you had to be a little concerned that they would be a little bit flat tonight, just because it's been a tough 24 hours for a lot of the guys involved with this team, and they've been doing interviews and dealing with the death of Bobby Plager. And a lot of times when you lose somebody like that's either a player on the team or somebody so close to the team, it takes the team a little while to get going after something like that. So not totally shocked that they've been a little flat tonight.
Not totally shocked they're a little flat, but they play again tomorrow, and that's going to be an emotionally charged game because that's at home. That's the first home game since the passing of Bobby Plager, and I wonder what the Blues have in store. Yes, it's not a full capacity crowd like I'm sure Bobby would want it to be, but it's still going to be something, and I wonder what the Blues have planned for him. That I'd like to know.
I'm sure there'll be some kind of video tribute.
Yeah, there'll be some kind of video tribute. I mean, there can't be too much of a ceremony, but there almost has to be. It's kind of cool what the Blues are doing now. They are, in fact, they lit up the Enterprise Center, at least the Jumbotron and his number, and that's a nice thing to do. Actually, Erica Weston was there tonight, broadcasting from the Enterprise Center, which that was really cool. Scott, any other words for the passing of Plager? Because have you heard anything else? Did you hear the the pregame speech that Craig Berube delivered to his team about Plager? Did you hear about that?
I did. Yeah. Just lots of tributes coming out, like we talked about last night. He was kind of the heart and soul of the Blues and the alumni and just hockey in St. Louis. And so it's been a sad, 24 going on 36 hours now since we got the news of his passing. And like we said, I'm sure there'll be, like you said, the tribute they did with the video board and everything at Enterprise Center is great. And I'm sure there'll be a really nice video tribute tomorrow.
Yeah, and hopefully the Blues can channel their inner Bobby a little bit more. There were two fights tonight, actually. The one with Braden Shen and one with Zach Sanford. And Zach Sanford is nobody to mess with. He's a big dude.
Yeah, he is. You just like him to see him score some goals and win some games, too. The fights are great. They need to win some games.
It was funny, though, Scott. The Blues... you'd think maybe it'd be nice to score 5 for Bobby. Just score a couple goals. I mean, the last game, they had only 1 goal, and so far through 2 periods, they're getting shut out by Cam Talbot. Last time I checked, Cam Talbot wasn't that good in Edmonton. So the Blues need to put more shots on them. They need to put better shots on them. They're not getting any net front presence. And Vladimir Tarasenko, while he's had some good shots, usually that shot's hard to stop. It's been stopped easily by Cam Talbot. So hopefully Vladdy can get it going. He's had a few shots tonight. Jordan Binnington, in my mind, has had a good game. Maybe minus that Kaprizov goal. The first goal they scored off of him was kind of the pass was to the weak side, and he had no chance to get back and get to that goal. So, you know what? Binnington hasn't had a bad game. The one thing I will question, though, is the defense, like we always have been. But they got one more period, and I can see them pulling this one out for Bobby, that's for sure. And you're going to want to because you're playing tomorrow night, too, and you're playing a rested team in the Anaheim Ducks. They're already in St. Louis practicing. So I hope the Blues are ready for that one.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be. Like you said, it'll be emotional at home. That first game since that, so hopefully they come out fired up, and they've still got some time in this one. Maybe they can do something here tonight still.
Yeah, it's amazing that like the tributes that keep coming out. I mean, you had John Kelly talking to Red Berenson. I mean, that was cool in itself. What was kind of funny about that, Scott, I never knew this. The trade that got Berenson here, he also was traded with Bobby's brother, Barclay Plager. Both of them were traded here in the same trade. That's interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, that is interesting. You had some really great players come in here to be original Blues. So, like you said, there's been tons of tributes. I heard David Backus get interviewed today. 101 actually replayed their interview with Bobby the day after the Blues won the Cup in 2019. So that was pretty cool to hear his voice today and hear him relive his excitement after the Blues won the Cup. So that was a neat tribute as well.
Yeah, and it was nice to hear Alex Pietrangelo today. They had Reed Lowe on 101. 101 today, like 101 ESPN today, was like listening to like old interviews. It was just awesome to see all the old players. I mean, Alex Pietrangelo didn't have to do an interview, and he did. That's what he thought of Bobby Plager.
Yeah, all kinds of people did. Like David Backus was on. They interviewed all kinds of people. But Plager had a big impact on a lot of these guys that played for the Blues. Alexander Steen did an interview today and was choked up while he was doing it. You could hear the emotion in his voice talking about him. So it was neat to hear how much he meant to those guys.
Scott, before we move on to the NHL scoreboard, did you hear the interview the 101 replayed yesterday of Chris Kerber interviewing Bobby Plager? Did you by chance get to hear any of that?
I did, and then like I said, they did another one today. So yeah, I've heard him interviewed a couple of times. So it was pretty neat to hear him.
It was pretty neat to hear him. That's for sure, Scott. Tributes rolling in. It's awesome that even the visiting teams. I mean, you're getting them from all over. You're getting tributes. You're getting tributes from the Rangers. Remember, Bobby Plager was on the Rangers for 3 years before he came to the St. Louis Blues and finished his career in St. Louis. So that was nice as well. Now, going through the NHL scoreboard, you had the Washington Capitals defeating the New Jersey Devils by a score of 4-3. You have a game right now in Chicago. Panthers facing the Blackhawks. Blackhawks winning 2-0 in that one. That one is in the third period with around 12 minutes to go. The Red Wings and Predators. The Predators are putting an absolute beating on the Red Wings right now. That score is 6-1. That's in the third period with 13 minutes left. Of course, the Blues and the Wild are up 2-0 as of right now. The Tampa Bay Lightning and Dallas Stars are playing, and the Lightning are up 2-1 in that one. And the Golden Knights and Avalanche. This is a game that St. Louis Blues fans really need to pay attention to. It's tied at 1. We're in period 2 with about 15 minutes left. Scott, who do Blues fans really want to see win at this point out of those two teams?
I think you just want to see them beat each other up because, that would be the best thing for the Blues is that they just keep beating each other up and take turns beating the other team because then the Blues can gain points on both of them. So I think that's what you want as a Blues fan right now.
That's what you want as a Blues fan, that's for sure. So that's the NHL scoreboard. Scott, tell everybody what we have coming up on Crunch Time.
Coming up in our next segment, we're going to talk a little baseball, talk about the Cardinals game tonight. And they made some roster moves, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after this break.
Welcome back to Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. Joe Hamilton alongside Scott Tobin. Scott, the Cardinals played a game today. It wasn't shown on TV. It will be shown tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. on MLB Network if anybody wants to watch. I mean, some people get up that early to watch baseball. I don't know. But Daniel Ponce de Leon was on the mound today. Let's talk about that first. He had 6 walks in this one. This is his last tune-up before the season gets underway. Are you at all worried about Daniel Ponce de Leon after this?
No, he had a bad outing. It's really the first bad outing he's had all spring. He had some control issues, but I'm not worried about it. I mean, you're going to have a bad start from time to time, and tonight was that, and I'd much rather see it happen now than 2 weeks from now when you get into the regular season. So he had control issues. Like he said, he walked 6. Not a great night for him, but again, it's just spring training. So, no, I'm not worried because most of the spring he's looked really good.
I'm just wondering if you're struggling that bad, if you're trying to work on some things, Scott. I mean, is this the point where working on things needs to stop? I mean, you actually want to, start seeing that winning product. I mean, you're one more game left, Scott. I mean, this is no pun intended. This is crunch time here for the Cardinals.
It's not. It's spring training. It's not crunch time. It's still spring training. They're practice games.
Yeah.
They don't mean anything. You're just going out there trying to get some work. He struggled tonight. It happens. Mm-hmm. Like I said, his other starts, he's looked really good. He had a rough one tonight. You bounce back from it. He's a professional pitcher. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. I'm not quite sure what the final score of that game was. That doesn't matter at this point.
3-0.
3-0. Cardinal win.
No, they lost 3-0.
Okay. Either way, just get out of spring training healthy. That's the main thing. Scott, the Cardinals made a few roster moves today. Roster down to 36. Talk about that.
They sent some big names to the minor leagues today. A couple of them not so big. I mean, They sent down outfielder Matt Caesar, which isn't a big deal. They sent down pitcher Jesus Cruz and pitcher Evan Krasinski that aren't a big deal. Then you get into the bigger names, the prospects. Matthew Libator got sent down today. Zach Thompson got sent down today. Nolan Gorman went down today. Johan Oviedo went down today. So the Cardinals are down to 36. And some of the top prospects that are just a little ways away from being here were the ones that went down today to go to the minors and get ready so that hopefully they can be parts of this team as you get later into the season or at least next year. So that's where they're at. They're at 36. So you still got 10 more cuts to make. Little surprised Tommy Parsons is down already. I thought he would have more of a chance to make that bullpen, but I guess they have their minds kind of set on how they're going to do that. So Tommy Parsons will be in the minors and be ready if an injury would happen and they need him.
That's interesting, Scott, because Tommy Parsons got a lot of work in spring training. I mean, he was there toward the end of games. This is shocking because you don't get a look at that guy that much if you don't think he's going to make an impact. Now, at least starting the season. Now he could come up. And Scott, speaking of the alternate training site, what are those players going to be? Who are those players going to be? Because not everyone's going to be there, right?
We haven't heard who's going to be at the alternate training site yet. Right now, they're just announcing who's being reassigned to the minor leagues. That actual training site will be announced next week sometime. And probably the guys that are going to go there for the most part are the guys that are still on the roster right now. Those last cuts will probably be the ones that go to that alternate training site. You don't want to send Gorman or Libator or Thompson to there. You want to send them, they're going to stay in Florida and work until you get to minor league or until the minor league season starts in May. So they're going to go actually play games. But
so you're saying the lower level guys are probably going to go to the alternate, not the lower level guys, but the guys that are not currently on the Cardinal radar, right?
No, well, I'm saying the guys that are still on the roster that haven't been cut yet. Those are the guys you're going to see at the alternate site. The guys like, whoever doesn't win out of Jose Rendon and John Nagowski, those kind of guys are the ones that are going to go to that alternate site so that they're right there and ready if you need them because they're pretty much major league ready. Tommy Parsons could end up being a guy that ends up there. But, yeah, those are the guys that are going to be there, the guys that just miss making this team. And Justin Williams, if he ends up not making the major league roster, he would go to that satellite camp, that kind of thing.
At this point, Scott, the Cardinals have a lot of decisions to make. They have the Matt Carpenter decision, obviously, how much playing time he's going to get. You also got the hole in right field. What I mean by hole, Scott, is you don't know who's necessarily going to be there every day. It's going to be a combination of guys like Lane Thomas and a Justin Williams, so on and so forth. Would you kind of agree with that whole kind of how I said it, Scott? The hole in right field?
I don't think it's a hole. You have, I think Lane Thomas is going to be out there most days, and then Justin Williams will be there when guys need a day off. I don't think you have a hole. I think your outfield's pretty much, it hurts that Harrison Bader's not there to start the season. Other than that, your outfield's pretty much the way you anticipated it to be. Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, Lane Thomas, with Justin Williams filling in.
All right, Scott, let's say Dylan Carlson looks good in center field, and from what I'm hearing, he could be this team's future center fielder. Let's say he looks good in center field. Can Bader play a corner outfield spot? Because, that defense is very valuable.
No. Harrison Bader comes back. Harrison Bader is the center fielder. Dylan Carlson's not as good of a defensive center fielder as Harrison Bader. So no matter how good Dylan Carlson looks in center field, if Harrison Bader comes back and is healthy, Carlson goes to right.
Carlson goes to right, and once these injuries, that's going to be another decision the Cardinals make. When Bader gets back, somebody's going to have to go down between Thomas and Williams, and that's going to be determined on the hot hand, right?
I wouldn't necessarily say one of those guys go down because a lot of times you carry 5 outfielders. So, depending on who's hitting better, it's very possible that they're both still here.
Do you think how much playing time do you think a guy like Justin Williams gets? I know you're going to see Lane Thomas out there more times than not, but how much playing time do you think Williams gets?
He's going to get some. It's going to depend on how he hits when he plays, and what everybody else is doing. I mean, if the three starters are hitting, he's probably not going to get a whole lot. He'll get days off, and he'll get assignments against tough right-handed pitching if one of those guys is struggling against a right-hander, because he is that left-handed bat in the outfield. He's probably going to play once or twice a week, I would imagine.
Yeah, he is. And some other news, Scott. Luis Robert is going to be out 6 to 8 months with a pectoral tear. Is this a product of playing a DH in the outfield, Scott, or was he not in baseball shape to begin with? This is a weird injury, especially in spring training.
It wasn't Luis Robert. It's Eloy Jimenez.
Eloy Jimenez. I get those two mixed up. Eloy Jimenez. He's a DH to begin with, Scott, and this happened on a attempted robbed home run. Bad break for this kid, right? Because he has loads of talent.
Yeah. Torn pectoral, it can happen. It's a horrible injury. He's probably going to miss basically the whole season now. He's out 5 to 6 months, like you said. So at the earliest, he's back in August, but it's more than likely that we don't see him at all this year, which is a big blow to the White Sox, who have big hopes, big goals for this season.
All right, Scott, I know we're not into our predictions yet, but how much of a big blow is this to the White Sox? I mean, is it to the point where their favoritism in the AL Central is in jeopardy, or do you think they still have enough to contend in that division?
They still have enough to contend. I mean, it's a big blow in the middle of your lineup. That's a bat you were counting on. But, they've got good young starting pitching. And if there's a manager who knows how to handle an injury and get a young team to rally around it and bounce back and next man up, it's Tony La Russa. So he will have that team ready to go.
What are some of the other things, Scott? Oh, yeah, one more thing before I throw it to you. Apparently there was a contract extension offered to Carlos Correa, and he's turned it down already. I believe it was in the 6-year, $120 million range. How much do you think Carlos Correa can get on the open market?
More than that. 6 years and $120 million is pretty low.
I mean, that's insulting, right? I mean,
I don't think $120 million is ever insulting. I mean, but he's going to get more than he would get more than that on the open market. How much more? I don't know, but I would imagine probably he could for 6 years probably 140, 150 on the open market. I would say.
So basically,
you got to remember he's had a lot of injury issues the last couple of years.
So basically, Scott, around George Springer money.
Yeah, somewhere in that vicinity.
Scott, what are some of the other things you've been hearing and seeing around spring training that I don't know about?
Everybody, not a whole lot of news, really. Everybody's just getting ready. We're in the last couple of days of spring training. It's going to be a fun time. The season starts in a week from today. We'll be in Cincinnati. About this time, a week from now, we'll be talking about the first game. Jack Flaherty going out, hopefully pitching really well. We'll be talking about Nolan Arenado's first game as a Cardinal in the regular season. So here's a question for you, Joe. If Nolan Arenado goes 0 for 4 on opening day, are you going to be ripping Nolan Arenado talking about how he's good?
No, but I will say, Scott, it's odd to see Nolan Arenado being the lowest averaging. Again, I know it's spring training. I know, but I know some people – I'm shocked people haven't gotten on that bandwagon yet. It's mostly been about Carpenter this, Carpenter that. If Matt Carpenter wasn't struggling, I wonder how much of that would go to Nolan Arenado's struggles in spring.
He was doing really – I mean, he's gone through a stretch. He's 0 for his last 17. He's gone through a funk. He started out really well. It's spring training.
Yeah.
People have to remember, too, how hard it is to hit in that ballpark in Jupiter. I mean, the wind is knocks a lot of balls down. It's not an easy place to hit. Just look at what minor league teams that play there in the Florida Gulf Coast League. The numbers are bad every year. It's not a hitter's ballpark. And Yeah, he had a rough spring, but I'm not taking a whole lot into it. I mean, nobody really hit a whole lot in spring training, and they never do down there just because it's not a good hitter's ballpark.
It really isn't, and it's awesome to think about baseball once again. 162 games. This is going to be fun. One thing I have been doing, Scott, I've been on YouTube watching some old. You remember the show Prime 9?
Yeah.
On MLB Network?
Yep.
Were you a fan of that show?
I watched it some, yeah.
What I was looking at most of those lists. You know, they had a Prime 9 of the all-time hitting seasons. Okay? How is Albert Pujols' 2005 season not on there? That I don't understand.
You know, in the history of baseball, it might not have been in the top 9. I mean, there have been some pretty amazing seasons, especially when you go back and look at those guys in the 50s and 60s, some of the years that those guys put together. And even into the 80s, early 80s, some of the years that Tony Gwynn, Wade Boggs, those guys put together offensively.
I even saw one today. Go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I saw one today with the all-time hitting seasons. Barry Bonds was on that list, and that was the 2001 season. That was after, McGuire and Sosa and everything, and Bonds felt like he had to roid up to break records. But how is that even on there? I mean, that could have been replaced, right?
But it was a pretty amazing season when you go back and look at his on base percentage, how many times he was walked, what his batting average was. I mean, as much as I don't like Barry, that was still a pretty impressive season.
It really was. He was getting walks at a metric ton. So, Scott, before I went into that, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Oh, we were talking about hitting seasons. I saw a list today of some of the top 10 batting averages in baseball in 1987. And the top 5 hitters that year all hit over 350 was their batting average for the season. When was the last time we saw anybody hit anywhere close to 350 for a season?
Yeah, that you don't see that anymore. What is a good average nowadays, Scott? What, 250, 260?
Well, it's not. I mean, a good average is still anywhere from 280 to 300, but you just don't see guys hitting 330, 340 anymore, which is what we need to get back to. We need to see guys getting back to making contact. That would make the game more exciting if we get back to those days. I mean, look at those guys from those eras. The guys like Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs that, if they hit 310 for the season, that was a bad year.
I wouldn't consider 310 a bad year by any stretch of the imagination.
That's what I'm saying. That's how good they were in contact. If they hit 310 for the season, they looked at it as a bad year because they were typically at 325, 330, 340.
Yeah, you got a point there, but I don't know if we'll ever get back to that, Scott. Do you think we will?
I think we will. I think that's what baseball's trying to get back to. It's what it needs to get back to. It needs to get back to contact and singles and doubles. That's what everybody's preaching, trying to get away from walks and strikeouts and home runs and trying to get more action into the game, more contact into the game. I think it is going to cycle back to that at some point.
2 more nuggets before we go to break. One is the Major League Baseball on Fox came out and basically gave the MVP award in the American League to, you guessed it, Mike Trout. And I think he will get it this year. That I'm already putting it out there, Scott. I mean, there are maybe a few other guys that could touch him when it comes to MVP votes, but I mean, do you kind of agree with that? Or I guess will you wait for the prediction show?
Yeah, I mean, you just never know because anybody can come out and have a monster year. Fox did their picks of teams in every division and picked their winners. They also picked the Angels to win the West in the American League, which I don't see any way. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes, and we'll see what our predictions look like next week.
Yeah, we will definitely for sure. One other point. Fernando Tatis Jr. is already injured, and we didn't talk about this, and I can't believe we didn't. He has a shoulder issue, and not knowing how long he's going to be out, and this after signing that mega contract. Are you worried about that contract as of right now? I mean, could he become injury prone?
No, I mean, from everything I've heard, it doesn't sound like it's a super serious thing where they expect him to be out for a long amount of time. It sounds like a mild little shoulder sprain that in a couple of weeks he should be okay.
Yeah, so hopefully, because that's one of the faces of baseball right there. Well, coming up next here on Crunch Time, we'll be talking NBA. Today was the NBA trade deadline. We'll get into that next here on Crunch Time. And welcome back to Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. Joe alongside Scott. I want to put this comment up there. I didn't get to it right away, but too many players swing for the fences, get back to Whitey ball. I don't think we'll ever see Whitey ball again to that extent, but Scott, do you see that coming back at all before we go any further?
I don't know that you'll get back to Whitey. You're never going to see a team steal 300 bases like those Cardinals teams in the 80s. But like I said, I do think you're going to see a lot. I think baseball's going to cycle back to more of a contact game, trying to get on base with hits. You may even see some bunting a little bit more in the next few years. The game's definitely going to get away from the all-or-nothing approach. So, yeah, I think we're going to slowly start to cycle back to a little bit more contact and the higher average type players.
Yeah, let's hope so. So let's get into the NBA. This was a huge day in the NBA. The trade deadline was today. The first trade I do want to talk about because this is interesting in itself. The Orlando Magic is trading Aaron Gordon to the Denver Nuggets. And Scott, how much does this trade affect Denver?
It helps Denver a lot. It gives them another big player to put in there. You know, you put him in the core of that Denver team, and Denver's already got some really talented players. You add him to that core with Michael Porter Jr. and the other guys that they have on that Denver team, Jokic and everything. They're going to be tough, man. They're going to be really tough in the West, and they were last year, and I think they're going to make another run again this year.
So Orlando is receiving shooting guard Gary Harris and rookie RJ Hampton and Denver's 2025 first round pick. Now that's projected. Not sure if that will be it, but Scott, why trade draft picks that far into the future? That just makes no sense to me.
That's the way Orlando's trying to build. You know, they tore their team pretty much apart today. They made another big trade besides that one. And so Orlando's trying to rebuild. And, you know, I guess they think in 3 or 4 years they'll be ready to try to compete in the East again and try to get that another first round pick.
The Bulls take a big step into their transition. Scott, talk about that.
Yeah. Again, they made a big trade with Orlando and Nikola Vucevic. You know, that gives them another big player for the Bulls. They have some weapons now in Chicago. And, you know, that's a big trade. You know, they ended up trading Wendell Carter, Otto Porter Jr., and 2 first-round picks for that. But that's a really nice move. And it gives the Bulls, like I said, another interior weapon. And Chicago's going to try to make some noise in the East this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I like to see the Bulls get back to dominance, man, because they haven't really been good in a extended period of time since Michael left that organization. Would you say that?
They had a run. They had a in 2010s, 2009, 10, 11, before Derrick Rose got hurt when he was still the MVP player. Those were some really good Bulls teams. They just, unfortunately, Derrick Rose, his legs and knees just couldn't hold up, keep him at that superstar level. But those were some really good Bulls teams.
Yeah, I just want to see the Bulls get back to prominence. And Kyle, this is a shocking one. We'll get to another trade here in a second. Kyle Lowry stays with the Raptors. Are you shocked at all by that?
A little bit, just because there was so much talk about him being moved. Toronto did make a move, though. They did trade Norman Powell to Portland for Rodney Hood and Gary Trent Jr., so that helps Portland out a little bit. But yeah, I am surprised just because there was so much talk about Kyle Lowry getting moved.
How about Victor Oladipo to the Miami Heat? That was an interesting move as well. What does that do for the Miami Heat? How does that help them?
It helps them. It gives them another weapon. I mean, Oladipo isn't the same player he was a few years ago. He's had a lot of injuries. He's a little bit older now. But he's another weapon for that Heat team. So that will definitely give them some more depth as they try to make a playoff push in the East. For some players that everybody thought were going to get moved today that didn't. So, like we said, we thought Lowry was going to get moved. There was talk Bradley Beal could get moved today. That didn't happen. Lonzo Ball, a lot of teams were trying to get Ball. Denver was really, really trying to get Lonzo Ball from the Pelicans, but New Orleans decided to hold on to him. That was a little bit of a surprise. Another trade that happened, and this one's just funny. The Hawks traded Rajon Rondo to the Clippers for Lou Williams. So Lou Williams to Atlanta, and if anybody remembers the bubble last year, Lou Williams loves the strip clubs in Atlanta. That's where he was famously seen taking pictures with strippers and not having a mask on, and he swore that he was just there for the chicken wings. Remember that story?
Yeah, the chicken wings must have been really good. Actually, they might have been. Who knows? But Scott, anything that I'm missing right now?
Those are the big ones. Yeah, hopefully Lou Williams gets to enjoy those Atlanta strip clubs now that he's there with the Hawks. He can spend a lot more time with his chicken wings.
Scott, there was a big release today by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Can you talk about that real quick?
Who did they release?
I think they released. He was with the Miami Heat, and I guess he went. I forget his name. Like it's a name that doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah, I missed that, so I'm not sure who they released. To be totally honest with you.
Oh crap! Then I'm not the only one. Then I thought you would have saw that too, though. Scott, what were some of the minor things that went on that doesn't really get much press?
We saw a couple of teams just trade draft picks, which is really weird. The Clippers did that, just had a draft pick switch. A couple things like that. And then now that the trade deadline's over, we'll start watching some players get released, get bought out of their contracts. There's going to be a bunch more NBA player movement in the next couple of days now as teams start to buy out contracts and you see guys move that way.
Yeah, I hope this basketball down the stretch, Scott, it's going to be so much fun. Is there anybody that can challenge the Jazz?
Denver can. The Clippers still can. If the Lakers get healthy, they can. Phoenix is good. There's a bunch of teams in the West. The Western Conference playoffs are going to be really, really interesting because kind of like last year, you're going to see a bunch of teams that have not once you get in there that can make a run. So the West will be interesting. The East is going to be fun to watch this year in the playoffs too because there's a bunch of teams in the East. Everybody's going to be looking at the Nets, but don't sleep on Philly. Boston's still decent. The Bulls are going to be better. Miami's going to be good. The East is going to be up for grabs, and we can't forget about Giannis and Milwaukee. So both of those conference playoffs are going to be very interesting.
They will be very interesting, Scott. I like the second half of basketball. The first half, I can't really get into. I don't know what it is, man. It's to the point where you don't start watching until second half. Now you have, with LeBron hurt, you have more of a chance to watch some actual good basketball and not just know who's going to be there at the end. Now, Scott, one team that we thought would be there at the end for a while is the Boston Celtics. Me and Wags and I talked about this on Monday during the podcast. What's contributed to their fall?
They just haven't played. They haven't played as well as everybody expected them to. It's been one of those years Jason Tatum's not had a Jason Tatum type year this year. He's a little bit down. Kemba Walker hasn't been as good this year. They just haven't gotten the all-around play from guys that they normally do or that you expect them to put up. And they're a little bit down this year. So, that's pretty much it right there.
Man, it's sad, too, because, Scott, weren't we talking on this show that could be a team for a long time that could contend?
And they still can. I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs. You never know. Teams get hot. Look at Miami last year. Nobody expected the Heat to be in the Eastern Conference Finals or to go to the NBA Finals, for that matter. So, there's nothing saying that Boston can't get into the playoffs and turn things around and get hot.
Yeah, there's no reason that Boston can't get hot. That'll be a team to watch, that's for sure. Scott, what do we got coming up in our final segment?
We're going to talk a little NFL stuff, couple of little things here and there, some rumors going around. So just a little bit of NFL talk when we come back from this next break on Crunch Time. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. Scott, final segment here. The NFL, and there's still the rumors going around that maybe the Bears are trolling people with that tweeted photo of Andy Dalton as QB1. Maybe we see Russell Wilson? Maybe? I mean, Scott, if that is true that Andy Dalton would be their number one quarterback, as a Packer fan, I am so happy to hear that.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're trolling anybody. Right now, Andy Dalton is their number one quarterback. That's absolutely true. It doesn't mean that they're not still trying to work out a deal to get Russell Wilson, and it's kind of the rumor that won't go away. And part of that is because Wilson keeps talking about the fact that, he's not sure what Seattle wants to do, and there's teams that he'd be willing to go to. He still keeps bringing that up. So it makes everybody think he really wants out of Seattle. And the Bears, we know, definitely want him. So I think if something's going to happen, it's definitely going to happen by the draft. And it would probably be a 3-team trade. That was the latest rumor in the last few days, is that the Jets may be involved. Sam Darnold would go to Seattle to be their quarterback. The former USC guy being reunited with Pete Carroll, of course, who has legendary ties with USC and all the championships he had there. And the Jets would get some draft picks out of it, and the Bears would get Russell Wilson. So, that's probably the way that works. It'll be interesting to see if it really happens.
It would be interesting, and I think, wasn't that a potential trade that insider Adam Schefter kind of brought up? I mean, if Schefter's bringing it up, there has to be some kind of fuel to the fire there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just the fact that Wilson himself won't let it die, doesn't seem to want to let it die. Yeah, Schefter's brought it up. Some people in Chicago have talked about it. Even some New York media have brought it up in the last couple of days. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, we still got about a month till the draft. So there'll be all kinds of rumors still flying around. And then, there's the Deshaun Watson circus, I guess you could call it. We'll see how that plays out and see where he is a month from now. See if he gets moved by the draft or if he stays in Houston. Jadeveon Clowney went on his first visits this week. The first team he went to see were the Cleveland Browns. So that would be interesting to see if Jadeveon goes to Cleveland. There was a lot of interest by both sides last year in the offseason before he decided to go to Tennessee. So Clowney would definitely be a big piece to that Browns defensive line if they could get him to go there. Aldon Smith, the former Mizzou star, is a free agent, and it sounds like he may end up in Denver, which that would be really interesting to have a pass rush with him and Von Miller and that Denver defense. So that would be interesting to see how that works out. Those are the big ones right now. There's still some rumors flying around here and there, but those are the biggest rumors going on in the NFL right now.
Is there what is the timetable, Scott, that we'll start hearing more and more come the NFL draft? Because you see a lot of movement around that time. What is the time we usually see the movement, though?
It's going to be closer to the draft that week. Usually a week, 10 days before is where you start seeing a little bit of action. But a lot of times we see it on draft day itself. So anytime once you get about a week out, you'll start seeing some moves, and then, like I said, draft day itself, and get to that point now too, where you're going to start hearing a lot of chatter, a lot of this team's going to do this team's going to pass on that guy. Once you get into that last month, the last couple of weeks before the draft, don't believe anything you hear, because teams are going to put out false information trying to convince people that they're not going to draft somebody or they're going to move out of a spot to try to get better deals, and there'll be a lot of chatter going on here very shortly about the draft.
There will be, that's for sure. Before we get out of here tonight, there's something else that James Dolan did. He basically banned a fan from the arena because he had a shirt on or something that said "Ban Dolan," and it's James Dolan rearing his head again. His New York Knicks are actually building something. If Dolan stays out of the way, the Knicks actually don't look bad, man. I know I didn't bring this up in the NBA segment, probably should have, but wow, rearing your ugly head is rearing itself out once again, Scott. My God.
Yeah, but fans, you go into a stadium and you wear something against the owner of the team. You're asking to get removed. I mean, the fans are just trying to provoke something there. So that's kind of dumb on the fans' part, just trying to get noticed.
I guess it's just, they talked about it today, and it's just, James Dolan, I just don't like the guy because he takes the limelight away from his basketball team that's actually building something now. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. I don't think anything will, but I just found that interesting today when I saw that, so I had to bring it up. So, Scott, is there anything before we get out of here tonight?
Blues game is final now. They lost 2-0 tonight, so no Blues again tonight, which has really struggled. And you noticed it, but for NCAA college basketball fans, it's really weird to be in the tournament and have another Thursday where there's no basketball, and there's no basketball on Friday this weekend either. It's just so odd to be in these early stages still of the tournament and have Thursday, Friday basketball. They're playing 16 on Saturday, Sunday, and then the Elite Eight Monday, Tuesday. It's just really different. So it's weird not having basketball these 2 days.
I found it funny, Scott, that they played all day Monday, but then we got to wait another. That just makes no sense. You got to wait 5 days for your next game. Scott, the reason why I brought up picks, since we're here, reason why I brought up picks, I wonder how many of these matchups you had going into the Sweet 16. That's why I brought up the whole picks thing.
I'm doing pretty good, actually. I mean, Illinois lost, which I had in the whole tournament. That hurts me. I have 11 of the 16 teams, so I'm not doing too bad.
It makes me wonder, Scott, how many of those upsets did you pick?
I had 3 or 4. State. I had top of my head. Who else? I had 3 of the upsets that played, especially the first round. So I did better. I did better Thursday, Friday than I did Saturday, Sunday last week. But still in really good shape. I have 3 of my 4 Final Four teams still alive, and so.
At least 3 of my Final Four, Scott, are gone because they're from the exact same conference. Thanks, Big Ten.
Yeah, who do you have still?
Yeah, I think so. I'll have to look, Scott, but I mean, I thought the Big Ten was better than it turned out to be. I mean, there's still some teams in it, but it's the fact is the teams that I thought would be in the Final Four had sad efforts. Which, by the way, Scott, what do you think KU does? This is interesting to me because KU, they always seem to choke come tournament time. Do you think maybe they move on from a coach? What do you think happens there? Anything?
Well, they're usually right there. They usually at least get to the Sweet 16. Success in Kansas, so he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's a good thing for us because we can't stand KU, but still, as we are on the show, I mean, it is conversation worthy. Well, good show tonight, guys. Thank you for watching. For Scott Tobin, I'm Joe Hamilton. Be good to one another. Do the right things. And if you have the chance to get the vaccine, no matter if you believe in it or not, get it because we all want to go back to doing things that we love. So get out there, enjoy yourself, but be safe at the same time. See you guys.